Hey, these unfamiliar faces you might not recognize are back. It's the Puckleheads, Marcus White, Conall McNeilis with a little coast to coast puck talk. It's been, I think, exactly a month since we last recorded, if not a little under a month. I think we
Just
last
a
recorded,
little under. I think the last show was October 20, like 4th or 6th or
yeah,
something
like
like
the week
that.
before
So
Halloween, I want to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
That sounds about right. So we're back. A lot's happened since then. It's the ever important Thanksgiving cutoff approaching. Not the time you spend with your family if you're in the United States. If you're in
Nope.
Canada, it's just a regular Thursday. But it's ever important. Something like 77% of the teams in the playoffs on Thanksgiving make the playoffs since the league has expanded to 30 teams. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the Matt Duchene trade. And Conall will, as always, rant about the Rangers. I think you were at what, 3 minutes last time?
Yeah, that was right before the win streak started, by the way. So they've.
So he's got even more to complain about now.
I do. Somehow I have more to complain about. So
So
even
we'll give him a solid 5 minutes to just go off.
I don't know if I need 5 minutes, but we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna make you hit that 5 minutes, even if you're just stretching for time. You're gonna have to fill those 5 minutes. But in the meantime, Conall, how have you been?
Good, busy. I think the biggest thing I can note is that in between our last shows is kids, don't grow up. We don't have as much time to do the Puckleheads. Not as fun, but no, very busy with hockey season in full force here. Now I got my high school season going, my travel season, and my regular job is hockey as well. So a lot of hockey. Very busy, but it's a good busy. I'm been up since like 5:30 in the morning, just doing hockey related things. So
growing a mustache too in the meantime.
Yes, there's my stash. I know it's very impressive. There it is. Very
That's
impressive.
the best I've seen it since I've known you.
Yeah, well, that's not saying much, but I mean, doing my little Movember thing here for sure. How about yourself?
What's the link you want to plug for donations for that?
Oh, I'll just tweet us out for that. I'm doing some stuff. I'm doing men's mental health. I have like a Conall, I think it's a Coach Conall Movember page. I'm doing men's mental health, and I'm also going to split it with some hurricane relief stuff as well, down to Harvey and Irma and Puerto Rico, just trying to get some bills there as well. So just, trying to help
worthy
out.
cause, donate so Conall can keep looking like an idiot with the mustache. It'll be worth something. It'll have been worth something. Check out his Twitter page at CT McNeilis. I'll retweet it. I'm at Marcus P. White, and at the Puckleheads will also retweet it. So the thing we were waiting for all year happened while we were on our brief hiatus. The Matt Duchene trade.
Yeah.
And you and I haven't really talked about it in the meantime, so this will kind of be our first reactions. But when I first got the notification, because I forget what I was doing. I think I was at the gym, and then I just saw my phone. I got all the notifications. My first reaction was, I kind of hate it for every team involved.
Yeah. I don't understand why Nashville didn't just go after Duchene if that was the trade they were going to make. That was the one that was like, why not just like throw an extra draft pick in and just get Duchene straight up instead of getting Kyle Turris? Talk about we're complaining that the Avs are asking for too much, and talk about their king's ransom they get here. So if you guys don't know the trade here, three-way trade here between the Ottawa Senators, Nashville Predators, and of course Matt Duchene's former team, the Colorado Avalanche. So Duchene goes to Ottawa. Kyle Turris goes to Nashville. And then the Avalanche just received a plethora of prospects and picks here, a little bit of everything. So defensive prospect Samuel Girard from Nashville. He was their 2016 second-round pick. Forward prospect Vladislav Kamenov, who I don't know as much about, but also a second-round pick from 2014. Shane Bowers, who was Ottawa's 2017 first-round pick. The Hamburglar, Andrew Hammond, also going over there. And then Ottawa's 2018 first-round pick, 2018 second-round pick from Nashville, and 2019 third-round pick from Ottawa. Holy lick, that's a lot going to Avalanche. And I guess kudos to Joe Sakic because he got his king's ransom, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why Nashville didn't just trade straight up for Duchene. But they didn't have the prospects. They didn't want to give it up. Specifically, what I don't get about the trade is, well, I mean, signing Kyle Turris unannounced, sight unseen to a 6-year, $36 million extension just doesn't doesn't seem like the greatest move. I think he's probably worth that money, but anytime you sign a guy like that entering their 30s to a deal that long, I understand that's the cost of doing business, but I always question that. But I really question it for Ottawa. I mean, I think Matt Duchene's a better player than Kyle Turris, but if Ottawa really wanted to be good, they needed Duchene and Turris and Derek Brassard. Then you're looking at one of the best, 1, 2, 3 punches down the middle in the Eastern Conference, if not the league. Now it's like, oh, cool, they've got a great top 6, but it's the same problem they had previously.
I was going to say, it was like if this is a lateral move, the move was kind of like that's like just a slight incline, like 1 or 2% better. Duchene, I think, is a year younger than Turris. I mean, I think he certainly has more high-end skill. I always talk about Matt Duchene's speed and all that stuff. Speed and playing the 1-3-1, it kind of negates it a little bit. A lot of sense. I think, like you said, if they were able to keep all 3 of those guys, and it would have taken more to do so, obviously, and make a bigger push just directly with Colorado and not have Nashville involved. They're, like you said, a 1 or 2% better team because of Matt Duchene, but they still have depth problems up at the forward position. That's something they didn't address here. And then they give up, some prospects and some picks here as well. I thought it was way too much from Ottawa, especially. Nashville has the prospect pool and are very close to a Stanley Cup. So I think you're more willing to do it if I'm Nashville. But Ottawa, lateral move. Similar to me, Marcus, with like the Phaneuf trade a few years ago. Just to get a lateral move to get another big-name guy who is I think, a very good player, but on a team that isn't as close as you would like to be. Despite going to the conference final last year in Game 7, they had a hell of a run. I think we all think that was a fluke, and they're not as good of a team as that team, that run was. Craig Anderson standing on his head. We know what hot goalies could do. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. I think Ottawa's an average team. I watched the Rangers on Sunday night, beat them 3-0. They had almost no offense in their game. Nothing impressive from Ottawa's standpoint.
Yeah, I think the way it makes sense is when you consider how notoriously cheap Eugene Melnyk is. I mean, this is a guy who literally doesn't even live in Canada. He lives in Barbados to live in a tax haven. The guy is super wealthy, but he's not willing to spend on his team. And, you're hearing the complaints about Ottawa's arena being in a terrible location. Guess who's going to go to the Ottawa taxpayers with an arena proposal? It'll be Eugene Melnyk. So keeping all that in mind, Duchene is signed for the next 2 years. Turris is not. This, to me, feels like they're just kicking the can down the road of having to make a deep financial commitment to this team.
Yep.
And there's only so many ways we could say that, like, Eugene Melnyk is the real-life equivalent of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons in terms of, like, greedy, evil sports owner. But it makes sense when you think that if you view it as a financial move, it makes sense why Ottawa did it. And they're a bottom-line driven franchise. I mean, I know the arena is not in a great place. It's hard to get to. I know their attendance isn't great, blah, blah. I understand that, but the guy is wealthy enough to put up money on this team if he wants to, and I think it hamstrings his GM. I think they've done well given like the circumstances, but like you said, the ceiling is that of an average team, and I think they're maybe slightly better than average now with Duchene instead of Turris, who I don't mean to knock Duchene. I think he's a very good player. I think he's better than Kyle Turris. He's absolutely an upgrade. But again, the deep teams are the ones that win. Pittsburgh last year had Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Nick Bonino down the middle. Matt Duchene, Kyle Turris, Derek Brassard is, maybe not better than that, but certainly close, certainly comparable. Maybe not in terms of top-end skill, but in terms of overall depth. So I don't really question this move. And, frankly, if it doesn't work, like, they're not really giving Erik Karlsson much reason to stay.
No, not at all. They have no first-round pick this year, no second-round pick. I mean, and Ottawa is another team that has done an atrocious job with their cap management, Marcus. I'm looking at here at Cap Friendly Puckleheads.com here for one of our favorite sites, obviously, on the Puckleheads. I mean, they only have about 1.2, projected cap space. Current space because of an IR move is 1.7. But Marcus, Ottawa's one of these teams that has given above average players at best, mediocre players, maybe like contracts they shouldn't. Like, why is Zach Smith signed for 4 more years with a modified no trade clause at 3
Why is Mike Condon signed for the next?
Why is Mike Condon? Why is Clark MacArthur signed? Clark MacArthur with injuries, I guess that's a little less. Mike Condon on a bad deal, for 3 years at 2.4.
Why are you paying a backup goalie that much?
And why are you signing a backup goalie for more than 2 years? I mean, it makes literally no sense. The Dion Phaneuf contract continues to get worse and worse.
They didn't give him that contract, to be fair, but they sure as hell signed up for that contract.
Well, they traded for it. That's for sure. We questioned, and I know he had a decent year last year, but why did you sign Alexander Burrows to 2.5 years, 2 years to 2.5 per year? It just, I don't like the feel of Ottawa. They have issues with their arena. They have issues, sadly, with attendance, which is basically solely because of just the location of the arena, which is about 30 minutes outside of downtown. And downtown Ottawa is supposedly beautiful. Like, why they couldn't get something closer, I don't know. Weird move. I don't get Ottawa. They're another team that just makes very little sense to me. And it's
amazing that they complain about the arena location when, they chose to build it there.
Yeah, it's not like they inherited an arena or you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they relocated
it's an expansion franchise that chose an arena.
And 25 years ago or whatever it was, it would have been cheaper back then to obviously build something. So I don't know. Nashville gives up some prospects, but I think they're so deep on the blue line. They're so deep everywhere. This puts them pretty much over the top. I think now more than ever, they're probably even though I don't think Kyle Turris is a game changer, more depth down the middle. Don't love the contract, but for the next 2 or 3 years, he'll be fine. And, if Nashville wasn't already, Marcus, I think this certainly flirts them up at the top, I think, with, as far as the favorite out of the West.
Oh, I think this cements them. I mean, I think what we're looking at this year, and, I was listening to the Bobcast on TSN, there's such a small separation of these teams. And, St. Louis is playing super duper well right now. They look,
they're playing great, but is St. Louis that good? I think that's the question, right?
Right. I think that, their possession numbers are certainly there. They're in scoring venue, adjusted Corsi and Fenwick. They're in the top 6, which is actually ahead of Nashville, in both respects. But Turris is just getting acclimated there. Yeah, I think this makes them a better team. They were my favorite coming into the season. They're still my favorite.
Yeah, sure.
And I think they have to be considered, one of the league's best teams after this deal. You mentioned the standings. Let's talk about it. The ever important Thanksgiving deadline, as we mentioned at the top of the show, something like 77 or 78% of teams that are in the playoffs on American Thanksgiving make the playoffs that season. So we're going to go through who's currently in playoff position. How do you want to do this? You want to go conference by conference, or do you want to go team by team and go say in or out?
Yeah, we can just kind of go through by teams here. I don't care if we go to a certain conference. We said St. Louis before, so why don't we go out with the Western first, Marcus?
So we'll start with the Central and the West. Let's start with the Blues. In or out the St. Louis Blues, Con?
In. I don't think they hold on to that division lead. I think there's, obviously, I talked about how much I love Winnipeg going into the year. Nashville's finally getting healthy with Bonino in now and now getting Turris. St. Louis will be in the playoffs. I don't think they hold on to the division lead, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they end up finishing second in that division. I think we're
second or third. I think they'll be in that top 3, though.
I think we're going to see a Nashville Predators surge. So you mentioned you like the Jets. You have them in as well. Do you think they're going to win the Central?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to go down the final week of the season. Jets, Nashville. I think
I am. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm a huge. I was actually just I tracked 2 Jets games here in the last couple of days. Actually, I like the Jets. Just everything about them. Just speed up the wazoo, obviously, with them. And then we talked about it. I mean, they have some cap space too. The Jets are a team that could make a trade. The deadline, they have $7 million in cap space right now. Projected cap space. Sorry. Adjusted cap space, it's almost flirting with $10 million already. That's only going to go up. That's a team that can improve. They could, honestly, I think they could probably use a little bit more, bottom six depth there, and also could probably grab a defenseman as well. And now Hellebuck has played well, and they got Steve Mason, but you wonder what their future goaltending is there. I like them. I still think Nashville will wind up winning the division, though.
Yeah, I have the Jets in. I'm curious to see what you saw from tracking them, because they've not been a very good possession team to start this season. Connor Hellebuck has been awesome, and they've got elite scoring talent, and that's kind of kept them afloat. What did you see from them in terms of like their processes when you tracked that?
Certainly better from early in the season. I would like to see what their 10-game trend has been, or maybe even an 8-game trend, if we could see that like that. They have certainly been in a better case. I was doing their game against the Devils over the weekend, where they really took it to. I think they're kind of a team, because of their elite scoring, Marcus. They don't need to necessarily be a top 5 possession team, but we always talk, you got to be in the top echelon there. Top 12, they would like. I think you got to put that, be around that margin. Obviously they got Big Buff on the back end. I love Jacob Trouba as well. And then their elite scoring. I mean, their high quality scoring chances are certainly probably. I would assume I would have to let me look, see if I can figure it out. Have to be in the top 10 in the league, because a lot of slot line passes, so much speed on the zone entries. They're getting high quality shooting chances, which can overcome lack of possession in the long run. But I like at least the progress that Winnipeg's making. I still think they need to make a couple moves, but they're going to have the space to do it. They'll be in. I think they should hold on to a top 3 spot there, but I do think Nashville will get that division, Marcus.
I think what they have to worry about in the Central is, I think Paul Maurice is probably, of these teams in the mix in the Central, St. Louis, Winnipeg, Nashville, it's probably the worst coach. I mean, I think Lavi and Ken Hitchcock
are so superior, it's not even funny. Actually.
And Ken Hitchcock's team's currently out of it, and we'll get to the Stars, I'm sure, in a little bit. So I'm just on the NHL standings page. We got the 3 in the Central. We think they're all 3 are in. Let's go over to the Pacific now. The Los Angeles Kings, hot start, kind of cooled off as of late. Only 3-6-1 in their last 10. Still have a +14 goal differential. Surprisingly, not an elite possession team. I'm on Puck on Net, which is an invaluable source to track puck possession. They're 18th in the league in score and venue adjusted Corsi. That means, adjusting for blowouts, and some arenas track the numbers differently, and Corsi obviously being shot attempts. Fenwick, unblocked shot attempts. The Kings, 20th, below 50% in those respects. We're seeing them score a lot more, though. I think they're in. I think they've built up enough of headroom here, but I can see them slipping out of the division title and into one of those wild card spots.
Yeah, they're a team I wasn't very high on. I think either was going into the season. Gosh, the West is just jam-packed with teams. When you look out there, the Sharks are only 5 points behind the Kings, and they got 2 games in hand. Look at the wild card situations with Dallas and Minnesota right there. And obviously Anaheim, who I still think is certainly probably the favorite in that division, despite where they're at right now. Got a game in hand, 3 points out of the division lead there.
They don't even have their guys back. They don't have Kessler.
I know, and they're just, it really wouldn't matter. I think Anaheim just is a team that needs to get into playoffs. I think they're just so banged up with injuries right now. They're just a team that's just got to kind of hold the fort down, stay in that wild card spot. Maybe they can make a late season run. The Kings, I'm such a coin toss on, Marcus, but it's hard to say no to a team that's in first place in their division right now. I think they'll hold on by the skin of their teeth. I don't think they'll win the division, though.
Okay, we got to go second place. The biggest surprise in the league still, the Vegas Golden Knights. They haven't gone away. +10 goal differential. They are second in the Pacific Division, and they have better puck possession numbers than the Los Angeles Kings. They are 13th in score and venue adjusted Fenwick. Incredible. And 15th in score and venue adjusted Corsi, right around 50%. That's a remarkable accomplishment in and of itself. That's going to get Gerard Gallant Coach of the Year. 8-1 at home, 4-5-1 on the road. I'm sorry. I think they're out of the playoffs, though.
Listen. no pun intended here, but you know, if I was a betting man, I'm not taking Vegas. Still young, and honestly, listen, they're going to be. I don't care where they are in the standings. They have to trade James Neal, maybe Marcus. Who knows? They need to just keep stacking up. This is a, you know, and by year 4 or 5, you want to be in the playoffs for sure. But the first at least year or two, maybe year 3, but year 1, year 2, expansion. Their start has been great. The fans have rallied around this team for obvious reasons. They're not making the playoffs. It's just they're going to slowly start fading back to reality here. You know, 4, 5, and 1 over the last 10. I think they'll slowly start to slip. The amount of injuries, the fact that they have all these injuries at the goaltending position that some teams don't even, you know, have to handle in like 10 years of a team's existence is pretty incredible. So good for Vegas. I don't have them in the playoffs though.
Yeah, I've got them out. They got to trade Perron. They got to trade Neal. They got to trade all the guys that are UFAs and just amass picks. The third place team in the Pacific, the Calgary Flames, -1 goal differential, 6-5 at home, 6-3 on the road, 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 2. Yogs is back in the lineup. They're heating up. This is a top 10 possession team. I think Calgary's in, and I think they might contend for the division. They're only 2 points back of LA right now, and they have a game in hand. I really like the Calgary Flames. I'm still very worried about their goaltending situation.
That's the one thing, Marcus, that has me nervous. Yeah, that makes me nervous about picking Calgary. Obviously, their blue line is maybe second only into Nashville in the league, I think, at least in the conference. Their forward group has been great. A lot of depth at forward there. They'll have some cap space to flirt with. You know, not a ton, but they'll have some to work with here. Yeah, I don't see how they're not making the playoffs. But their goaltending's an issue. You know, Mike Smith has been great. Good for him. He's kind of rejuvenated himself so far. He's been pretty solid. But hard to see him holding up his end of the bargain to an extent, but I still think Calgary will make the playoffs. I like their blue line too much not to take him in the playoffs.
He's been great at even strength too. He's got a .935 even strength.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He really has. I give him credit. I'm not the big
is where his save percentage has gone down. If he can keep that up, they're a legit team. They're going to be in that deal. I still think they made a terrible trade, but you know, good for him for proving me wrong-ish. In the 2 wildcard spots, the Anaheim Ducks, ravaged by injuries, one of the worst possession teams in the league, but this time it's excusable, and it's not just because Randy Carlyle is their coach. It's because literally everyone on their team has been injured at some point this season. And then clinging like zombies, like the Walking Dead, to a last playoff spot, the Chicago Blackhawks, 22 points. Awful possession team this year, relying pretty much solely on the play of goaltender Corey Crawford. Okay, they're not an awful possession team. They're below average, but given where they've been previously, below average might as well be awful. They're actually 11th in Corsi, so I spoke too soon. They're a decent possession team, and that's what I get for being 19th in Fenwick, though. So a lot of their shots are a lot of their not getting a lot of pucks on net, you could say. Because that's unblocked shot attempts. Of these two, who you got missing the playoffs? I got one of the two. But
yeah, I think Chicago misses the playoffs.
Yes.
I think Chicago's out. I think Anaheim, John Gibson, I was tracking an Anaheim game against Florida. John Gibson had a 52 save performance the other night, so he's doing pretty well for himself.
Red O'Dara stopped 40 last night.
Dude, it's unreal. Anaheim, you need to be concerned about, though, because if they can't stay afloat, and you couldn't blame them if they couldn't stay afloat, literally every main guy on the roster has missed time so far. You name Getzlaff, Kessler, Perry, the back end, you know, all these guys are missing. The best thing Anaheim has going for them right now is obviously their goaltending and the funny videos that Kevin Bieksa keeps making. So, I mean, they're in trouble. They're only, you know, 2 points up. You know, the Sharks got a game in hand. You know, Minnesota, Dallas are there still fighting. I think Anaheim just will hold on for dear life, and they'll be okay. But I'm not as confident as them. You know, when they're healthy, I think they're a threat to make the Stanley Cup. But they're not healthy, and you got to make the playoffs in order to go there. Chicago, we talked about it beforehand. We both had them out of the playoffs. think it's just kind of been a reality check. I think just years caught up with them. And I think you need to be smart if you're Chicago and you're Stan Bowman going into the trade deadline. Marcus, the one team I think about and I give so much credit to, and good for them for doing well this year, we talked about it last year at the trade deadline, was St. Louis with Kevin Shattenkirk. And despite the fact they were in a playoff spot at that time, in one of the wild card spots, and they want to pull off an upset in Minnesota, and maybe they make a farther run if they have Kevin Shattenkirk, who knows? They got a prospect and a first-round pick for him. And they said, you know what? We know what we are. We're not delusional, but we're going to invest in our future. We still have a pretty good team, and who knows what happens going forward. I think Chicago needs to realize that. They have all this stuff, with the host of stuff, and they have all these contracts they got to get rid of. Listen, they could probably get something for Patrick Sharp. He's gotten off to a slow start, even being a healthy scratch and a fourth-line guy. I wonder what they do with Artem Anisimov going forward here, who signed for a couple more years at a reasonable contract.
But with NFC.
And then, of course, they have all the disaster money eaten up with Brent Seabrook. I think Chicago is going to have to start facing reality soon. And you know what? It's okay to face reality after you won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. Everything you did was worth it to win those Stanley Cups. That's why you play the game. That's why you run a business. You run a hockey team, all that stuff. Chicago I just don't think they have it anymore. And the Saad Panarin deal actually hasn't been great for either team so far. Both players have struggled to score mightily. Saad's still a guy you can invest in a long term. He's still pretty young, but yeah, Chicago, I think they're falling out of it here, Marcus. So that means we have 2 teams falling out of the playoffs.
And I agree. I've got Chicago out also.
Yeah, Vegas and Chicago. So as the 2 teams,
potentially Anaheim.
Potentially Anaheim just because of injuries, not necessarily because of anything else. So that, to me, Marcus, there are 3 teams. And folks, hot take, Edmonton is not one of them.
The Oilers are not one of them. We'll get to that later in the show. They're not one of those teams.
3 teams that are going to flirt and fight like hell. 2 in the Pacific, 1 in the Central. The teams I'm looking at are obviously San Jose, Dallas, and Minnesota, Marcus. So 2 of those teams get in. Potentially 3 with Anaheim. You know the West better than I do. You know your Sharks. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, so I'm going to sound completely delusional. If anyone's read my writing on NBC Sports Bay Area, I've beaten the dead horse that the Sharks cannot score goals. Some of it, if you believe some in the stats community, some of it is luck related. This is also a team that could not score goals last season, so I don't think it's entirely luck driven. I think it's driven a lot by the fact that they're old and they've got guys who are hurt. Joe Pavelski playing hurt right now. Joe Thornton playing hurt right now.
Yeah.
It's early in the season, not a good sign. However, they are good enough defensively and they are a good enough possession team where ultimately I think that does get them into the playoffs. I think they're a better team than Vegas. I think they're a better team than Chicago.
I think no brainer on either of those, but yeah.
And I think that gets them in. And then I've got Dallas as the other team in. I think they've struggled away from home, but I think there's just too much scoring there. And ultimately, I think Ken Hitchcock's just too good of a coach. I love Bruce Boudreau. I think he's an excellent coach as well, but I think we're seeing how much Minnesota's overperformed the last couple of years with him at the helm right now.
Yeah.
That's a mediocre team. They've not been a good possession team, which you expect from a Boudreau coach squad. I mean, right now, Minnesota is 24th in score and venue adjusted Corsi, and in terms of score and venue adjusted Fenwick, they are, drumroll please, I'm not seeing them, 22nd. Not very good.
And I think, Marcus, when your stats are that bad, you notice how much, Devin Dubnik's save percentage dropped off, 5% from this year, and then, in 14, 15, 15, 16, he was in 19, but 3 years ago, he had a 936. That 5%, when you're that bad of a possession team, I think it goes a long way. It makes a huge difference. He hasn't been, all worldly so far. I have been on Minnesota's train for a while. I picked them to go to the Stanley Cup last year. Shows you what I know. I'm with you. I think Dallas definitely makes it. I still like San Jose defensively. Talk about the puck possession game. I want Minnesota to make it. I think it's fun when Minnesota's in it. I just like their fan base. I also think they have awesome jerseys. Shout out.
So do NHL executives because they cater to 5 different markets.
Yeah, they do. Exactly.
We'll talk later about the fact that like how many repeat teams are in outdoor games over the next 2 years.
Oh my freaking God. Anyway, Dallas for sure. Leaning right now, it's like 60-40. I take San Jose over Minnesota to make the playoffs, if that makes sense. Dallas is my team. I always like Dallas, but 60-40 in favor of San Jose over Minnesota to slide in. But if the Ducks can't weather the storm, and if the Ducks can't stay on the pond, if you know what I mean, then sorry, I'll leave. I'm out. I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys later. The Ducks can't keep their feet treading in the water, then maybe they'll slide out of it. But yeah, Dallas for sure. San Jose 60-40 compared to Minnesota to make the playoffs. That leaves the rest of these guys. Colorado, nah. Vancouver, no. Arizona, dreadful. And the Edmonton Oilers, baby.
Should we talk Edmonton now, or should we say?
Yeah, real quick. We're in the West. Let's talk to Edmonton before we go to the East here.
I mean, this is everything we could have seen going wrong with this team going wrong. Like, they're a great possession team, but they have absolutely no scoring depth outside of Connor McDavid, and their possession numbers with McDavid off the ice are terrible.
It's almost impressive. It's in a weird way, it's actually impressive how atrocious the Edmonton Oilers have run as a franchise. I mean, it's mind-blowing, and they got off to this bad start. And I mean, who would have thought that Ryan Strome isn't as good as Jordan Eberle? And I know it was a cap move that you had to do because you now have Marcus, they have $61 million invested in 14 players for next season. They are so screwed. And, we talk about this contract. I'm not going to beat a dead horse or all this stuff. Edmonton is not making the playoffs. Too far out, too many teams in between. And the three teams we just talked about are better overall teams than Edmonton is.
I'm going to jump out of order here. It is a Thanksgiving show, and what I'm thankful for in hockey this year is that the Edmonton Oilers are probably going to miss the postseason. So every person who said that the Milan Lucic and Chris Russell deals and the trade of Taylor Hall to New Jersey for Adam Larson and trading Jordan Eberle and burying Puljujarvi in the minors and not drafting Clayton Keller because Puljujarvi fit a positional need, everyone who said all of that, I just have the greatest bleep-eating grin. I have a shit-eating grin on my face because of all these people who are just so wrong that, us and the people who use advanced stats who don't watch the game, we all certainly saw it coming, but those who use their eyes and the eye test did not. Normally, I'm not very hoity-toity about these things. I think it's fine if people have differences of opinion. But in this case, Conall, I am extremely happy, and I'm going to rub it in.
Absolutely. I'm all about it. By the way, I love the whole concept. I'd like to just prove we've talked about my job with Clearsight Analytics, which is Steve Alacette's company. The whole not watching the game. I've watched 8 hockey games in the past 24 hours. So don't tell me we don't watch the games. I always think that's just a ridiculous notion. So that's the West.
The fact that those possession stats are tracked by literally watching the game. You have to watch the game.
Do you think robots do this? I don't know. It's bizarre.
Automation is coming for the hockey executive's job.
They're taking over.
Connor McDavid, by the way, the Oilers are 4% better with him on the ice in terms of puck possession, which isn't nearly as big as I thought it would be, but it's still pretty big.
It's still pretty good.
But you mentioned Dubnyk as well. It shows what happens when Cam Talbot's not playing in a Vezina.
Exactly. Cam Talbot's same kind of concept, not playing all worldly. It's a big difference for sure. As we talked Edmonton with some awful trades, we'll go out to the East, and one of the biggest surprises here in the NHL, Marcus, we'll start with the Metropolitan Division here, is the New Jersey Devils. 27 points, 12-5-3. Heck of a start, to be honest. But 4-3-3 in their last 10 here, Marcus. Sitting atop the Metropolitan Division, of course, as everybody in the world predicted. We'll start out there now in the East, Marcus, with Taylor Hall and the New Jersey Devils. Do the Devils hold on and still make the playoffs, Marcus?
It pains me to say it, but I am going to go with no.
Yeah,
I do not think that they hang on to the playoffs. As a good friend of the show and listener, Matt Swenson tweeted at us when we asked what people.
That was a great tweet.
He said, "I'm thankful for the
Devils tweets, actually."
we'll get to the second one a little later on. I'm thankful for the New Jersey Devils' good start, setting us up perfect for the annual midseason collapse and depression. I think Matt's dead on here. I think this start is not sustainable. You look at the possession numbers of New Jersey. They're the bottom 6, bottom 5 teams in the league. That's not good, folks. What is good is that Corey Schneider appears to be back. He appears to be legit, and they're getting goal scoring from Taylor Hall. Turns out he's a pretty good hockey player, and it turns out that maybe the Edmonton Oilers could use him, and we'll talk about the other Edmonton winger that was traded. Yeah, I think it's going to catch up to them. They've banked a lot of points, but realistically, there's only 3 points separating them and the New York Islanders, who's the first wild card, and there's only 5 points separating them and the Carolina Hurricanes, who are out of the playoffs entirely.
And the Carolinas got 2 game in hand too. So I mean, it's so close. Obviously, Columbus and Pittsburgh there, Washington there, like all these teams kicking at the tires. Good for the Devils, but I think it's going to be even better for the Devils to get another high draft pick. I think that's, and in a weird way, this actually could hurt them if they don't drop enough. You know what I mean?
I mean, they could, like, Dahlin is a guy that would fit them seamlessly and could potentially put them over the top as soon as 2 seasons from now. But if they're out of the hunt for that top pick, it's going to hurt them. I just saw
I'm reading. We had a live update here. Another. As our good friend PF Nasty, the ultimate Twitter troll, in response to Matt Swenson, your team ain't shit, bruh. Martin Brodeur ain't walking through those doors. Corey Schneider's been pretty good, though. I mean, Corey Schneider's pretty good.
Game with the New Jersey Devils.
Who would have thought? Drew chiming in here.
That's amazing.
All right, so New Jersey, awesome start. I think it's fun when the Devils are good, but they're going to slide out of it here. Moving down the ranks here, a team that's been pretty good has won 4 in a row now. Columbus Marcus with Torts at the helm. Side note, if you haven't seen my Twitter, Sergei Bobrovsky is the best goalie in the world, and I will fight you on that. It's stupid. I hate playing against him. It's annoying. Anyway, Columbus. Marcus?
They're legit. I mean, they're the 4th best possession team in the league. A John Tortorella coach team is the 4th best.
That's the most remarkable stat. I mean,
I don't get it.
I don't get it. That's amazing. Good for them. Yeah, Columbus certainly in the playoffs. They'll be fighting for that division with the team right below them, and only separated by a state border there. I think Columbus is certainly in the playoffs. What
they have to worry about that though is that with Torts not being a possession guy, does he kick it upstairs to Yarmo and he's like, I don't think we're playing the right kind of hockey, and they make a really dumb trade to bring in Jan Girardi.
Listening to how Torch talks nowadays, I actually think he's changed a little bit, at least when he was under the helm of the Rangers. I will say that there's a difference in the way he talks. He's still like, oh, we have our own stats. He's one of those guys. We have our own stats to measure stuff, all that. But at the same time, I still think he's made an adjustment, and I think the impact of his old right-hand man, Sully, in Pittsburgh has probably impacted him. He's kind of opening his eyes a little bit. I think they'll be all right. I think Columbus flirts with the division. And speaking of Sully, Marcus, Pittsburgh there in the 3rd slot. I mean, yeah. Okay, moving on. Pittsburgh's in the playoffs.
I mean, they have a terrible goal differential because they employed Antti Niemi and they don't have a backup goaltender. I mean, they don't have enough depth down the middle. But they're still the Penguins. They're going to be there, whether that's as the 3rd team in the Metro or a wild card team. They're going to be.
Yeah, they're making the playoffs. Making the playoffs here. Moving over to the Atlantic. Top 3 teams here in the Atlantic. Tampa. I mean, they're studs. I picked them to go to the Stanley Cup.
They played the Sharks a couple weeks ago, and they destroyed them. They won 5-0. That Kucherov, Nemestikov, Stamkos line might be the best trio of players I've ever seen play together.
It's dumb. It's stupid. Steven Stamkos, by the way, is now the playmaker on that line.
Right. He's not going to shoot 6% all season, folks.
You took a top 10 scorer in the past 30 years in the NHL, and now he's a playmaker because Kucherov's like, yeah, I got this, guys. I'll shoot 16% the rest of the year, and I just don't worry about it. It's remarkable. Tampa is going to win the conference for sure. I think they'll probably win the President's Trophy. That's how good I think Tampa is. I picked them to go to Stanley Cup. Side note, my computer charge is at 69%. Nice. Nice. Yeah, Tampa all the way.
It's not interesting to talk about their playoff prospects, but it is interesting to talk about Kucherov's at 17-20. Does he get to 50-50?
Wow, if he got to 50-50, that'd be so impressive in today's NHL. 50-50 in today's NHL was honestly, that's got to be like the equivalent of like 180 back in the day. Like that would be insane. Oh, it would probably be a nice like kind of like mid-range long shot bets if like you were throwing some money down.
I think so too. I think it's feasible.
I don't think it's like probable, but if I bet you the odds are like 30%, and like that's a good bet if you want to throw like $100 down and try to make some real cash. He'll flirt with it. I bet you he gets 100 points though.
Oh, I think they have 200-point guys.
I don't know if he'll get 50-50 split, but it'll be close. Honestly,
now, are they going to split Hart votes, or do you think like Kucherov gets the Hart or Stamkos gets the Hart?
It's Kucherov's to lose right now.
Really? You think so? Stamkos has 35 points.
I guess. I know. I don't know. Something about Kucherov, man. It's going to be close. I mean,
do you think Stamkos wins the Art Ross and Kucherov wins the Hart Trophy?
Oh, yeah. That's totally feasible. And now at this point, that's like probably when it's going to be.
What odds do you think we could get on that in Vegas? That prop?
I'd put the money down right now.
Yeah.
I'd do
that.
I'm in. I'll look into it.
Look into those odds, and I'll transition us to talk about the next team. Yeah. Another juggernaut. Hit him with the 4 like Austin Matthews, the Toronto Maple Leafs. If not for the existence of the Tampa Bay Lightning, would probably be talked about as the NHL's best team. And
Toronto's stupid.
Toronto's not even the best team in their own division. Patrick Marleau is going to score 20 goals a year until he's 97 years old, it seems.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And how good they were without Austin Matthews, I think, is the biggest indicator. They're the second best team in the East, and I just hate this freaking divisional format because it means.
God dang it, Marcus! I've heard this debate a couple times. Would you go not even go one? Would you not even going back 1 to 8? Would you go 1 through 16? Like almost
absolutely, yeah.
I think it would make for a great playoff.
I think the NBA should do it, and I think the NHL should.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the NBA, but as someone brought up the NHL recently, I think it'd be kind of cool.
Here's what you could do, but they won't do it because there'd be too many dates cut out. What you could do is do a Premier League style regular season.
Twitter is currently blowing up, and I'm cracking up reading it.
You can read some of the tweets after I make my point, but
yeah,
a feasible season is you could have every team play each other twice, and then you play the teams in your conference 3 times. I mean, I got to do the math there.
Yeah, somewhere close to that.
So I think that'd be like 73 games. Because that'd be 75 games, 75-game regular season, and then you just do top 1 through 16 teams in the playoffs. Who says no?
I'm in.
Other than the arenas for losing, 6 or 7 home games.
But if you wanted to make up for that, Marcus, then just throw in a couple regional, like Rangers play the Flyers 4 times, or, you know what I mean? Like Sharks play the Kings. Sharks play the Kings in extra time. Get a couple rivalry games in there.
You play at every team in your conference. You'd play at least 3 times. But the teams in your quote-unquote division or your biggest rivals, you play 4 times.
Yeah, that's fine. You pick your 4 biggest rivals or whatever it is, 5 biggest rivals, play them an extra couple times.
I think we solved everything.
Perfect. I'm in. So those 2 teams are absolute locks.
What's on the Twitter?
Twitter. It's still like Flyers Devils banter with Swenson. So Swenson chimes in, long time, first time here. What do you y'all think has a better chance of making the playoffs, Flyers or Devs? I mean, probably Devils just because of their position right now.
Yeah, I think so.
But Drew replied, Devils as well. He's a Flyers fan, by the way. He said Devils. Flyers couldn't close the legs of the Virgin Mary.
Wow! Yikes!
All right.
Yikes!
That's all right.
Thank you.
Wait, we got. Oh no, that was just liked. Wait, hold on. Swenson come back. Laughing my ass off. Got to get Bob back. To be honest, neither prop will. Division's too strong. Both on the up. Don't call it a comeback. Yeah, I would actually agree with that statement.
Get on. I mean, look, Wawa territory's back in legitimacy.
That's damn right. Damn right.
Helps having the top two in the league. Speaking of legitimacy, here's a team that's not legitimate: the Detroit Red Wings in a playoff position right now. No, it's not going to happen.
The answer is no. The answer is no, and the answer is no.
They should have traded Mike Green yesterday for picks.
Yeah, seriously.
He's helping out my fantasy team though.
Yeah, Mike Green's awesome. Detroit's an absolute no. There's not even. We're not even going to waste my time discussing it. He's out. Going to the wild card here, Marcus. 2 more metropolitan teams here. We have the New York, Brooklyn, Kansas City, Quebec City, Seattle Islanders.
Houston, potentially. Houston
Islanders, sure, why not? And then the Washington Capitals, both hanging on there. 24 points, 23 points there. Islanders 2 games in hand. Marcus, what do you got with these 2 teams?
I have the Isles in. Let's talk about the Isles first. Matthew Barzal should be the Rookie of the Year. Everyone's talking about Clayton Keller.
Hinder Clayton Keller, but I think Barzal will get it in the aspect that he's going to play in a better team, which will help him, you know?
But everyone's talking about Keller like, oh, Clayton Keller. It's like the one time where they're highlighting a player who's not from one of 5 like metropolitan areas in the country,
awesome.
And which I enjoy. But I want them to focus on the New York area because Matthew Barzal is really freaking good.
I hate him already. He's so good. Islanders got him at what, like 5 or they got him a few picks.
No, they got him like 15.
Did they get him at 15? Oh shit! Because I wanted the Rangers to draft him at 7 when they traded up for that pick. Barzal is legit. He is filthy. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Islanders are right there. I think there's a couple teams kind of contending. Washington, man, has not been good.
Barzal at 16.
Oh, what a nightmare. Islanders, it's going to be close. Washington, I don't know about Washington.
They're bad. Their possession numbers are really bad. They're really bad.
They're not good. And Holtby hasn't been great this year either. Which, once again, talking about
fantasy team out.
Yeah, exactly. Big question here, and I think it's true. PF Nasty throwing out here. Last annoying question: if we put Joel Embiid on skates, would he be better than Zach Ronaldo?
I'm going
to say yes.
Joel Embiid has played basketball for the last 6 years of his life, maybe like 6 or 8, and he's this good at basketball. Like, the guy played soccer growing up. He's got footwork. No doubt in my mind he'd be better than Zach Ronaldo. No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% on that train. Marcus, I think Washington misses the playoffs.
Wow. Whoa.
I think here's my problem, right? Carolina's making the playoffs.
Yeah, Carolina's it. We got the Canes.
Devils are coming out. The Red Wings are coming out, so that means some shitty team in the Atlantic's going to make it. Boston.
Oh God, that's right. The Atlantic.
Boston or Ottawa's going to make it. A team that's garbage. So who's not making it? The Rangers might not make it here. The Flyers, Montreal. Does Montreal get it together and get back in the Central? I don't know. And in Florida, and Buffalo, I think, are already too far out of it.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's my problem. I think the Rangers.
The Atlantic is so terrible that the Red Wings conceivably could make the playoffs.
The Red Wings can make the playoffs. The Bruins. I mean, listen, Florida puts together a run, and all of a sudden they're back into it. And they're terrible. I have no clue.
Won a third of their games. They've won 7 of 20 games, and they could be in playoff positioning.
They could easily. This could be the first year since probably I don't know. I'm trying to think. They could win 39 games, 38 games, and maybe make the playoffs.
Well, the Leafs were technically under 500 last year because they lost so many games in overtime.
Yeah, I know. So it's going to be one of those. We get a 35-win team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have a tough time seeing the Caps out. I really do. I'm gonna be stubborn and I'm gonna say they're in.
And then Carolina moves in over the Devils.
Maybe we get some. Maybe Putin steps in and intervenes on behalf of Ovechkin, who's endorsing him on social media. Timely joke. Yeah. So I have the Caps in over the Devils. I think Columbus wins that division. I think everyone basically moves up a spot. So I think the Islanders finish as the 3rd best team in that division. I think the Caps are in the wild card with Carol. Actually, Nah, no, Carolina's going to be top 3. Wild card's the
I was
same.
going to say, I think Carolina gets in the top 3.
And then, I mean, you got to just pick one, but they're all just so bad. Like, I'm going to go with Ottawa as the third. I mean, we'll get a battle of Ontario in the first. We get a battle of Ontario in the first round, so we can get a Tampa-Toronto battle in the second round. When, as if it's confusing enough already, when the teams have identical jerseys, it's the two best teams in the league, and they're playing in the second round. God, I hate it already.
Imagine 1 versus 16, and it was Toronto, Tampa in the Stanley Cup.
Oh my God, why not? Come on. Give it to me.
Before we move on here, I just drank like 4 cups of tea in a row, and I have to go to the bathroom.
All right, so I will filibuster in the meantime.
Filibuster for 2 minutes here
with some takes. So yeah, that I just to elaborate on the previous point with Washington, I think there's too much talent there, and I think the coach is too good. I don't think, I just cannot see that team missing the postseason. I think it's inconceivable to me. I mean, they did miss the playoffs pretty recently before they hired Trotz, but man, oh man, I think that's a team that has a lot to figure out. And their GM said, last year was the year for them to win the cup, for them to contend, and they didn't do it, and now they're paying the price for it. So, that's tough. And man, it'd be crazy to see them miss the postseason. -8 goal differential. Somehow the Detroit Red Wings have a +5 goal differential. Speaking to what Conall was saying about a team under 500 making the playoffs, the Detroit Red Wings are 10-11 right now, 10-8-3, and they're in playoff position. And the Ottawa Senators have continued their mastery of just losing games in the right situations. They're 4-9 at home. They've lost 9 times out of 13 games at home. 5 of them have come in overtime, and they've gotten points. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the NHL's point system is total BS, and they need to rethink it. Go back to records. The NBA has overtime. You don't get an extra point for going there. I can understand the shootout, but hey, maybe just play 3-on-3 for 10 minutes, and God forbid you ended a tie. I think a soccer style scoring system might be best here, making a regulation win worth 3 points and bringing back the draw. I think it's getting to the point now. Conall, I was telling the listeners while you were indisposed about the this season is going to be maybe the best argument to get rid of. I mean, every year's the best argument, but the current point system in the NHL has got to go, because it makes you think teams that aren't thoroughly mediocre, teams that are thoroughly mediocre aren't thoroughly mediocre.
I'm all about like a 3-2-1 system, something like that. A 3 wins,
straight wins loss. Like, you don't get overtime points in the NBA. You don't get overtime points in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm fine with that too.
I do the 3-2-1 too, though. I think that's a good compliment.
3-2-1. Honestly, whatever. 3 wins, 3 points a regulation win. If you want to have the loser, hell, even like just a 3-2 system would be fine by me too. 3 wins regulation, 2 for overtime or shootout, something like that. Not even give a loser point kind of thing. Maybe you get a point if you get all the way to the shootout, because at that point it is what it is. I can maybe even live with that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm all for that. The reason the NHL likes it is because it keeps teams relevant, right? And it keeps fan bases in it and all that stuff, which is fine. But it's a false parody, Marcus. And I think that's the problem with it.
Yeah.
It's a false parody that says, oh, your team is only 5 points out of a playoff spot, when really they have 6 less wins than a team, but they just happen to get a couple shootout wins and all that stuff here. I'm kind of opposed to it here. So we'll wrap up the Eastern Conference here, Marcus. So I think realistically, Carolina takes over the Devils spot. One of the crap hole teams in the Atlantic slides into Detroit's spot. I guess it's Ottawa. And then I think the Islanders
won 40% of their games, and they're like a point out of the playoffs with 2 games in hand. They've won 40% of their games.
They're 8-5-6. That's a joke. And then I think the Islanders and Caps are the favorites to stay in the wild card. The Rangers will flirt with it. If Boston gets on a little run here, they got a game in hand. I think maybe they could too. They haven't been very healthy. I like the direction Philadelphia is going in. I just don't think this is the year for them.
Same.
Love
that young D-line.
I think I don't see it changing a whole lot. I think two teams out there. We got a great other question. Oh, wow, Marcus. I mean, we're a diverse group here on the show, so we got a great question. PF Nasty just dishing them out right now. Marry, fuck, kill.
Oh God.
Dustin Brown, John Scott, and Jody Shelley.
Wow, that's great. That's right up my alley. Definitely gonna marry Jody Shelley because he's got a broadcasting gig with the Blue Jackets. Gonna do that. F John Scott, of course. I think he'd be fun to hang out with for a night. And I'm gonna kill Dustin Brown.
That's tough for me. I would say I like the whole John Scott All-Star stuff. I was on board with that. But I think I'm going to be smart here, Marcus, and think about my financial stability and marry Dustin Brown.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
He's got money, and I get to live in South. Go out to Southern California there and hang out with him. Jody Shelley has a special place in my heart for almost single-handedly almost somehow put the Rangers in the playoffs. When
the year the Sharks traded him, he almost kept the Rangers playoff hopes alive.
He scored 2 goals in the final 3 games. He was unreal.
The best 3-game stretch of his career.
Oh, easily. So I'd fuck Jody Shelley, I guess, and then I'd kill John Scott. No, there's just John Scott, but
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's a fair one. So that means we've got 12 of 16 teams that are in playoff position right now making the playoffs. That's 75%. That's about right where it was.
That's right around where it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Of the teams we have making the playoffs, so that's in the West, 2 of San Jose, Minnesota, and Dallas. That's in the East, Carolina and Ottawa. Who is the most likely to make the playoffs, and who's the least likely?
I think Carolina is easily the most likely.
I'm going to say Ottawa because of their division.
That's fair too, but I refuse to make that decision. I think Carolina is such a good team. We talked about them. Remember, folks, when both Daniel and Henrik Sedin go to Carolina to make their Stanley Cup run,
and John Tavares,
you heard it here in August. Okay, just remember that. Okay, I'm just throwing it out. Hell, they can get the Sedins and they can get somebody else if they wanted to too. They're gonna have $45 million in cap space at the deadline. It's hysterical because I think they're good enough. Carolina. Least likely, I mean, I have no clue. They're all a crapshoot. I mean, least likely, if we put them into the category, I'd say the Rangers, and then, but also
of the teams we predicted to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, least likely.
From today, not from the preseason.
Yeah, I'd say Minnesota.
Yeah, I think so.
I just think it's a tough division.
Yeah,
it's a tough.
And their process isn't good. They're a bad possession.
They haven't been great. Their goaltending's been down. They've had some injuries. They got a decent amount of teams ahead of them. And they're in probably the toughest, flirting with the toughest division. It's either the Central or the Metro, depending on your opinion. So they're right there. They got 3 teams that aren't moving out of that top 3. As much as we're ripping on Chicago, they're still Chicago. Edmonton could be a pain in the ass later in the year if McDavid's just on a hot streak or something there's teams they're going to have to play against that are just not, it's not going to be easy for them. So I think Minnesota has the toughest road of the teams we predicted for sure.
Well, I touched on it earlier that I'm thankful that the Edmonton Oilers are out of the playoffs. So let's transition into that. Conall, what are you thankful for from the hockey world? And we'll get into to some of our additional listener feedback on that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for hockey players wearing cowboy hats and warm-ups. I think now it gave me an idea, and you could auction them off for charity. It could all be for your cause. I know teams like helmets because Taylor Hall, and some guys get hit and stuff. But imagine the entire Nashville Predators coming out wearing cowboy hats. Imagine like the entire Edmonton Oilers wearing minor hats to go into pick theme hats, and everyone gets to wear them before the game, and you can start getting crazy with this stuff, right? I think it'd be a lot of fun. And you could like have like fan submitting contests like for the next hat for like, you know, maybe not every game, but like once a week or once a month or something like that. You can get them going. Love the cowboy hat stuff. And you can get into some themes here. I mean, I'm trying to think of other good examples of like regional hats that you could put on. Like Boston, you could have like some like Irish cabbie hat going on. And you know, I'm trying to think where else.
Or you could just wear the DVD box case of The Departed.
There you go. That's perfect too. Absolutely. You know, let's bring it all back. Let's have players allowed to smoke during warm-ups. You know, let's go. Let's just throw it all out there. You know.
I like this hat. I like this bringing.
I think a hat idea could be fun. You could have a different
flames. Could light their hair on fire.
Yeah, you could have. It'll be like the Hunger Games, like where, you know, the girl on fire. You could do something like that. Yeah. There's enough like engineers around the NHL with the ice stuff. They can figure out something, invent something with that, so they don't get burnt. Anything along those lines would be absolutely hysterical. So I'm thankful for that.
Which is why the NHL won't do it.
Well, exactly. That's the problem, right? The old boys club of the NHL will be like, no.
I'm surprised I didn't read any columns this week about how PK Subban wearing a cowboy hat in warm-ups was actually bad because he showed personality and had the temerity to be a black hockey player.
And also trying to raise money for cancer. What a dipshit.
Right. It was actually selfish. He's a selfish guy. Was that for the hospital in Montreal?
I'm not sure. It was Hockey Fights Cancer hat. They wanted a boxing enough. And Nashville's also doing a promo with that. Like if you make a donation to Hockey Fights Cancer that's north of like $10 or $20 or something like that, you get a free Hockey Fights Cancer cowboy hat.
That's not bad.
I was tracking a Nashville game the other day and I saw that. So
and the Preds are playing well. They look well. I think we'll get into some of the tweets now that we received about what people were thankful for. Devils insider Kevin Winstanley is thankful that John Moore is the greatest 3-on-3 overtime player of all time.
I was sitting last night watching this game. I was at a bar with friends, and I'm like, we're watching the Monday Night Football, and I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, Minnesota tied it. And I'm like, literally all I'm thinking about is they have John Moore. Like, that's not Taylor Hall, not Nico Hischier, not Will Butcher. I'm like, oh, John Moore is probably going to score a goal here. And he scored. It's remarkable. I don't know.
I'm going to try and use Hockey Reference's play index to see who actually has the most 3-on-3 points. So if you wanted to get into some of our other what people were thankful for, Conall,
sure.
that would
I'll be thankful. PF Nasty here, Drew Paisley just really into it. I'll never not be thankful for the fact that Boston Bruins traded the 3rd-round pick for Zach Ronaldo. I'm thankful for PK Subban not being a Canadian anymore so I could root for him. And I'm thankful that Sidney Crosby started using mouthwash.
That's great. What about I know we got some on Facebook, didn't we?
I think your mom chimed in, and I believe one of my teachers.
That was not your mom joke. She actually did.
No, like literally, Marcus's mom chimed in. You know, big fan of the show here. Marcus's mom, Mary White, by the way. She's not just Mark. It's not Marcus' mom White. I'm thankful that hockey players work hard and get pucks deep. Yep, that's for sure.
Always great to be thankful for that.
Always great. Shannon Burkett, one of my former teachers. I'm thankful that God continues to send me hockey players to teach. Absolutely. They're a pain in the ass in the classroom, but, you know, they work hard. You know, they get pucks deep.
When did 3-on-3 overtime get introduced? Was that 2015? Was that our senior year?
15-16 was the first year, yeah.
All right, let me track this.
Get her done here. Other things I'm thankful. Obviously, you know, I'm thankful for the hockey world in general. We have a lot of good friends and memories in the hockey community.
Yes, absolutely. Hockey brought us together.
That's it, man. Hockey brought us together. You know, I'm really just so psyched that the NHL players aren't going to the Olympics. So I'm so thankful for that.
Very thankful for that. As I don't even know if I can say this, but I'm going to. As an NBC employee, I can assure you that NBC is also thankful the NHL players are not going.
So psyched. I'm so glad the NHL is making real efforts to grow the game. They're just the best. Yeah, I love it. Hopefully you guys can pick up on my sarcastic undertone of this entire rant going on here. Yeah, you know, thankful for, you know, just hockey in general, really. I mean, hockey is an awesome sport. You know, and that's why the NHL just wants to not grow it because they suck. Yeah. Anything else you got, Marcus? I don't know.
You know, I'm definitely, you know, I'm thankful for hockey. I'm thankful for like the weirdness that hockey can bring about, like the fact that, as Kevin brought up, John Moore is a stud in 3-on-3 overtime. He doesn't lead all scorers since 2015-16 in 3-on-3 overtime points. However, that title belongs to, according to Corsica, because they track it better, Johnny Gaudreau and Anze Kopitar are tied. Johnny Gaudreau averages, in terms of points per 60, if he was playing 3-on-3 for 60 minutes, he would score 15.68 points.
It's pretty good.
That's very good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not
12.83 of them primaries. I'm not surprised Johnny Gaudreau, since the inception, is the leader in points. I am thankful for 3-on-3 overtime, though.
So am I. And listen, folks, just remember, you're allowed to change your opinion on things. I was against it at first. I will happily admit that. And then, like a rational person, I saw what was going on, and I made an informed, educated decision to say, you know what? I was wrong. This is freaking awesome. So you're allowed to do that, folks. You don't have to be stubborn and to stay in your ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So like, if circumstances come around where you find yourself like defending a pedophile, for instance, like you're allowed to change your mind.
You're allowed to be like, oh shit, I messed up. He was a funny comedian, but he's also an awful human being. So you know what?
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We're a year out on it, and I was also a skeptic of the idea, but I'm thankful for Team North America. I'm thankful.
I still miss Team North America.
We got those 10 days.
Did you read that Vincent Trocheck article in the Players Tribune?
And I did not know what he said.
It's pretty good. Talked about Yager, just talked about hockey in South Florida and like helping to grow as a young hockey player. It's a cool article, but he talked about the Team North America, and he said, and I quote, "That was the sickest hockey team ever put together."
No doubt. No doubt.
Oh my God!
I'm thankful we got that an idea we thought wouldn't be good didn't worked out in traditional NHL fashion. As it always seems to do. I'm thankful, of course, that the league continues to play the same 6 or 8 teams in outdoor games.
Of course, I mean,
given the fact that we get another Flyers Penguins outdoor game in 2019, this time at the Link, and we get the Chicago Blackhawks in the Winter Classic.
I know.
Next year against the Bruins. Deliberately playing against the Bruins at the Fighting Irish's stadium, I might add. I would argue that city has those cities have the highest concentration of Notre Dame fans that didn't actually go to the school.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a joke. Dallas couldn't use one, or
like why?
Why is that
such a cool venue that like Chicago gets another game? Why is that so sick that they're at Notre Dame? Because Touchdown Jesus, they can Photoshop a hockey stick into his hands. Get out of
here. It's just because of the TV ratings. Because Chicago has it. I mean, it's a joke. Give me Tampa. Like why Tampa Dallas? The game would end 9-7.
But at least don't play the Bruins again. Put Nashville in there. Like they've played in the playoffs the last 3 years. They were just in the Cup final. As Conall does I thought he was going to take a phone call for a second.
It's the home phone. I don't answer the landline. Get the heck out of here.
Put Nashville in there. Put play St. Louis in there again. Like just don't give us do Boston again. The third Winter Classic for both teams. Give me a first-time debutante. Put the Wild there. Put it's just like, I mean, I get it, but like, I think we're at the point where the novelty's worn off of the.
It's beating a dead horse, that's for sure.
I mean, they're still fun, they're still cool, but part of the best sweet spot was when they had the 2 years, and I'm totally biased in this, where they had the 2 years where back to back they went Dodger Stadium and Levi's Stadium, because it's like, wow, they're actually doing something different. I didn't even care that the Kings were playing in 2 straight outdoor games, 2 straight years. It was so different. It was so cool. Like this is just the same thing. Again, put Nashville in there. Like have them play it like, the Nashville Stadium.
And you got 2 teams in Florida. Like why not do it down there? Like
try it.
Give me Tampa and Florida, and you have a million, college stadiums you could do. You could go a neutral site and go in between, go to Gainesville or something.
I'd rather see a neutral site game at this point than like a home game in Chicago. Have 2 random teams play at Lambeau. Have 2 random teams play at, other venues.
Fine by that. Fine by that.
Or how stoked are you for this year's Winter Classic?
I mean, I'm excited. And the Rangers there, obviously, I'll be going for sure. I'm hoping.
Neighbors home game.
I know. I'm hoping Chris Carr can come down. I've talked with him to come down to visit. So he has a new job, so he's just hoping he could have like the days off and all that stuff to make it work. So we're still figuring it out. I mean, I'm excited. I've been to 2 of the 3 Rangers outdoor games. I was at the Winter Classic in Philly in 2012. And then I was at one of the Stadium Series games, the one against the Devils in 2014. They also played the Islanders, both at Yankee Stadium. I'm excited. I think it's just a cool event. Like, I'm a nerd for that stuff. But at the same time, you know, at least it's the Sabres. I mean, at least it's not like the same teams, I guess. But
they've only haven't been in a Winter Classic in 10 years, as opposed.
Yeah, I know. At least they're throwing it back. I mean, I'm excited. I look forward to it. I'll be there for sure. But it's kind of.
I feel like this is the one with the least amount of buzz.
No one's really talking about it. It's not good.
Is there even going to be like a 24? Is there going to be an all access show like leading up to it on Epic?
It's actually just going to be me stalking the Rangers on Snapchat, and I'm going to do the narration and the editing, and I'm going to do the whole thing. So
you're going to do, and half of it will also be you calling Liev Schreiber, trying to get him to narrate. Yeah. Speaking of Liev Schreiber, I haven't seen it. Have you seen Goon 2 yet?
Watched it like 2 weeks ago.
Haven't seen it. What were your thoughts? Give us your Goon 2 thoughts.
Not as good as the first one, obviously. I think the first one was so great. It kind of came out of nowhere. It really captured the hockey lifestyle, especially like the minor league stuff. I thought was great. You know, the idea of, you know, the enforcer, obviously, all that stuff. But, you know, having the Russian hockey players and the French Canadian, you know, like all mix of stuff. And I forget, I got to look at something Coates. The guy who plays the coach is fantastic. The second one, pretty good. Like the premise is like it's the NHL lockout. And so so all like the young players who are still under like their first year contracts can come down and play in the AHL, so to speak. It's like the Maritime Hockey League or whatever it is in that. Right. So all the younger guys are there, and they have I forget his first name, but Kurt Russell's son, who was in Wyatt Russell. He got this long hair and a beard. He's like the rival and all this stuff, and he gets traded. And so all the guys are in there. So like, you know, it's still pretty cool. They have a lot of NHL appearances. Colton Orr's in it, Brandon Pruss, Tyler Seguin, Delzato, George Rock, George Peros. So they got some NHL guys, which is cool. Not as good. It's kind of about like Doug, like he gets hurt, like, and he has to learn how to like fight again and kind of make it back and all this cool stuff. So still good. I enjoyed it. Some good laughs. But the first one is certainly a superior film.
That's a great review. Well, it's become tradition here. We close out the show with a Conall McNeilis hashtag Coach Conall Ranger rant, because we love alliteration. We're gonna start getting that trending. Conall, I'm gonna force you to. How much did you go? 3 minutes last time? Should we split the difference? Should we split the difference and have you go 4, or should I make you go the full 5?
I don't think this is time for a major penalty, so we'll go with a double minor here.
Okay, we're gonna go double minor here. I'm gonna have my stopwatch ready, and I'm not gonna say anything. If you do see me on the Google Hangout on the YouTube video, if you're watching it after, it'll just be me giggling in the corner the entire time. So if you need to take a sip of tea, whatever you need to do to get ready, let me know.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm starting you off in 3, 2, 1.
All right, so the good news here, I'll start with the positive, folks, is that since the last time we started, and by the way, I would like to note, since I ordered my Peter Pruka jersey off eBay, the Rangers are like 8-2 since that time. They had a 6-game win streak, lost 2 in a row. Or I guess they're 7-2, and they won the other night. They have Carolina and almost a really big game tomorrow night, actually. But here's the problem, is that the Rangers are now almost in no man's land. They're a bubble playoff team, and as angry as I was with the start of the season, the fan in me obviously wants them to be competitive and wants them to make the playoffs, because there's that slight distinct possibility in the back of my mind. Oh my God, Henrik Lundqvist has a .960 save percentage and the Rangers go to the Stanley Cup. That being said, you know, and if they were a wild card team and maybe got a nice break, who knows? I don't know how it'll slide. That being said, now they're on the teams, you know, They would need to win tomorrow night to be like a playoff team by Thanksgiving. They're there, but what do you do with this team in the long run? You have Rick Nash as a free agent coming up. You have Michael Grabner as a free agent. Nick Holden, thank God, as a free agent coming up here. I mean, do you move these guys? Do you make investments? Are they going to make another move for a game breaker? Does the Oilers get desperate? If Nugent Hopkins is there, do you move? I think the best piece the Rangers had that they could move, who's a young guy, is Jimmy Vesey, because I think his trade stock will never be higher. But McDonough and Zuccarello are a year away from free agency. How far does this go? And if you really want to go with this retool on the fly, their center depth is an issue. Philip Hedl is tearing up Hartford, by the way. Is the highest points per game average in like a dozen-plus years for a teenager in the AHL. He's been fantastic. They have some defensive depth here with, Pionk and D'Angelo and all these guys in the minors. Vinny Lettieri's a nice forward. But how far does it go? Do you make the desperation move and try to pry a Nugent Hopkins or a Joe Thornton or a Sedin or someone? Do you make this? Are you going to be delusional? Or do they make a smarter approach, which hurts my fanhood, but the rational hockey mind in my head says, look what St. Louis did last year. Get a first-round pick for Rick Nash. Get a second and a prospect for Michael Grabner because you're never going to get a higher chance to get him. Move Nick Holden for, you create a fourth-round pick for him. Get a third-round pick and make a move. Get a prospect. And then retool, and you got free agency next year. You'll have some cap space. I would trade Jimmy Vesey too because they need to re-sign JT Miller. They need to sign Kevin Hayes, Brady Shea contracts. Maybe you give a blank check to John Tavares, whispers. And at this point, you go one more year all in with Lundqvist in 18-19. You could do it. And if it doesn't work at that point, you blow it up. And for me, and once again, it starts with the coaching here because Nick Holden clearly is a top pairing defenseman. And, of course, Steven Kampfer, who is just a joke on the blue line. You might as well have me as your seventh defenseman. I still think I could do better. I also, by the way, folks, if Mark Stahl, if you're listening, I will beat you in a shooting contest. There is no doubt in my mind. Go accuracy, go miles per hour. The guy can't shoot. He's actually had a slightly improved year, but hell, give him to Edmonton. I'm sure they'd love another giant contract there that they could mess around with. All right, come on, Nuge. I'll pick you up. Let's do this. All right. Mark Stahl, I'll beat you in a shooting contest. I'll beat you in a shootout contest. And skating, it's a possibility. I'm not going to throw that one out there as well. Realistic Rangers, see how the next 10 games go. If they're in a playoff spot, we could fight for it. If not, get the heck out of here. Marcus, I think, is very entertained by Mark Stahl comments. I make the comments every goddamn game. He cannot shoot the puck. He doesn't know how to shoot. It's either high and wide or it gets blocked. He's like, his stick is too big and he doesn't extend his arms. He has T-Rex arms here. I don't get it. That's it. Yeah, I have a better shot than Mark Stahl. I guarantee it. I put money on it.
Shoot better than Mark's. It's great.
Listen, Mark Stahl's 6'4". He's probably a better skater than I am, but he cannot shoot the puck. It is unfathomable how bad he is at shooting the puck. His wrist shot is so uncomfortable looking. It looks like he's in pain. His slap shot, it takes way too long to wind up, and it winds up getting blocked or goes wide. I don't get it. He can't shoot.
I can confirm Conall has a very good shot. So this isn't the craziest thing he said.
Listen, I'm not saying I could play in the NHL, but stand still, just picking corners from angles on the ice. I like my chances. I do. I like my chances.
I think we gotta get this. We can call it the Mark Stahl challenge.
It's like the Barstool goalie challenge, but Connell's just gonna pick on Mark Stahl. And listen,
Connell's just gonna pick on Mark Stahl.
And I'm not saying we need to go up against Carey Price, but a competent
so you want a goalie in that too? This is with a goaltender.
I would say this. I'd say picking corners, no goalie, and then a shootout, 10 shots per guy with a goalie.
I like your shootout odds. I do. I mean, I do. I think you got the hands. I like the odds. I mean, that's just. I was just losing it because poor Mark Stahl. You're just I
really feel bad for Mark Stahl because the thing is, unlike when I used to rip on Dan Girardi, Mark Stahl didn't really, and he obviously is older now, but Mark Stahl got bad more so because of the injuries that have happened to him.
Right.
I think that Girardi just wore down. He was a warrior, but he was old and he couldn't move anymore.
He's not playing with Hedman anymore, thank God.
Yeah, and wow, and Tampa's having success. Who would have thought? But Stahl got, the concussion from his brother, and then obviously the eye injury. He'll never be able to see properly again. There's a guy who's, by the way, I share season tickets. There's a guy in my section who probably has season tickets. Every game when Mark Stahl makes a bad play, he screams out, "Nice play, Cyclops." And he screams out, like, "Where's your eye patch, Mark?" It's so terrible. It is terrible, but the first time I heard it, I like spit out my beer back into my cup, and I laughed for the next 10 minutes. It was unbelievable.
I'm laughing right now, but this is fucking terrible.
Oh, it's terrible. It really is. So Mark Stahl got bad for, obviously he's a little older now. He's pushing 30. I think he's 29. But
yeah, they got Girardi on the third pairing now with Braden Coburn.
It's not a good third pairing.
They're going to play like 10 minutes a night.
I was going to say, Cooper's smart enough, though. Listen, just distribute it. Listen, Hedman is all-world. Strawman's amazing. Like, you're fine. Like, you're
Sergachev.
Oh, that guy's stupid. Unbelievable.
Montreal, man. Like, who's had a worse, like, 12 months since, like, and, like, with the start of the season? Who are you more satisfied to see teams starting so terribly? Peter Chiarelli's or Marc Bergevin's?
I will say Bergeron only because Montreal is in the Eastern Conference, and I've dealt with more Montreal fans in my life than I have with Oilers fans, so I hate the Canadians. So good.
It's very close for me.
Good,
especially because Edmonton could have traded for PK Subban, but they were like, no, like we'll just end up giving up too much.
And like Taylor Hall for PK Subban would have been a pretty even trade.
Even if you give up Taylor Hall and a prospect for Subban, at least you're like, wow, like our blue line is good. Like Adam Larson.
Unbelievable. The funniest part that always makes me think about the Adam Larson trade is that, like, 2 years before it even happened, we mentioned, like, we talked about, like, oh, like, yes. Like, Kevin, would you give up Larson for, like, Yakupov?
Yes.
Like, two prospects who haven't completely worked out yet, would you just swap them? And you're like, yeah, that would kind of make sense. We'll figure it out. And, yeah.
And they gave up Taylor Hall.
Get Taylor Hall, who's unbelievable.
Shout out to Nail Yakupov, by the way. Having a nice start to the year.
Good for him. I'm happy for Nail Yakupov. Yeah. He's done well for himself.
19 games. 9 points in 19 games, 18.2 shooting percentage. That's probably going to come down. Again, he did score at a 21% clip.
All right.
He did score at a 21% clip his rookie year when he was,
It's good for Colorado, too. They could trade him for a draft pick or something.
Yeah, I mean, God, he's 24 years old. If you're a team at the deadline and you need scoring help, he's 24 years old. He's only going to be an RFA. Like, I mean,
you have to. That's the thing. That's the big thing. He's an RFA. You still have control over him for another 2 years if you wanted.
I still don't. I mean, I know the guy struggled, but I think last year was really the anomaly in St. Louis. The 9 points in 40 games. Like, in his worst year in Edmonton, he had 24 points in 63 games. Like,
not a terrible. Like, listen. Well, the problem is, Marcus, if he wasn't a third round pick,
the first pick of the second round, he's still there.
Exactly. If he was a third round or fourth round pick, you'd be like, he would probably still be in Edmonton. But because he was a first round pick, it was all that stuff. Marcus, dare I say it, Colorado has a chance to actually have a really good year as far as trades go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They just
played it well. Who would have thought? The guy that hired, Patrick Waugh, like, has a chance to make some of the best deals. Like,
seriously, he could move. He obviously just got a king's ransom there. He got all these first round picks and prospects. He can move Yakupov, or he could keep him, RFA. Matt Nieto's also $1 million RFA. He's got Blake Como, who's some nice depth players he could rack up.
Matt Nieto's from Long Beach?
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Long Beach. I only asked that because it's a Sharks Twitter joke because it was brought up on every broadcast. And I don't have this firsthand, but I believe Randy Hahn brought it up once he found out that people were playing a drinking game to it, that every time he said Long Beach native Matt Nieto, because people made a drinking game of all the times he said desert dogs.
Nice.
About the Coyotes. So he just, anytime he mentions the Coyotes, desert dogs. And they play the Coyotes tomorrow night. I'm gonna count. I'm gonna do a counter as best I can tomorrow. I just choked on air, excuse me.
I'm choking. I'm choking on irony. Ugh.
Yeah. No, but yeah, so that's a thing. But yeah, Matt Nieto from Long Beach. Yeah, they've got guys they could trade.
Hey, real quick, Marcus, did you know that the Stalls are brothers?
Hey, whoa.
Yeah, I know. And they have a sod farm in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
He could trade Jonathan Bernier too. UFA.
Yeah, seriously, they could really go all in for this, like just tank for Dahlin. That's what they should do.
Oh my god, if they get Dahlin, they might actually be like decent next year.
Yeah, no, next year they could have a complete like 180. Like, yeah, he's unreal.
It's almost as if like their coach, who was like awful last year, it's almost like hiring a coach a month before the season starts isn't good for a team that's really bad. But if you give them an off season, they could do some decent things. It's almost like that was a bad idea.
Just spitballing here, guys. Just spitballing.
But then again, Patrick Waugh does like to pull out early. He likes to pull the goal with 5 minutes left in the game. I'm not speaking about. I spoke with a double entendre in mind.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not an adult. I refuse to.
He left his deal early. He loved pulling a goalie with 6 minutes left in the game with his team down 2 goals.
It's true. I mean, he's got a good pullout game. That's for sure. He knows how to get in and get out. You know what I mean?
I am thankful for Patrick Waugh's ability to get in and get out. On that note, this has been the Puckleheads. We did our Thanksgiving special. We'll probably be back. I think next week I should be able to do something. Probably like a midweek. I don't want to commit too early, but I think we'll be able to get back in a more regular swing.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely finding the spots here.
Conall, as always, this was very fun. And we're about to pull out of the broadcast here. So for Conall McNeilis, I'm Marcus White. Thank you guys for tuning in as always.